I would like to welcome you to the fourth public workshop on the general plan update. We have up with us tonight several other staff. We have Manuel Mancha, who's our director. So Manny, if you could stand up, he's a community development director. We have Patty Nevins, our planning official, who's standing towards the back of the room. We also have with us Ray Baker, who's on the Planning Commission, as well as a General Plan Advisory Committee Vice Chair. And also Rafael Brugueras, Planning Commissioner, and City Council Member Marquez is at the very back sitting, but I think everyone knows him. This meeting will also serve as the scoping meeting for the environmental impact report for the general plan update. There is one station in this open house format that will be dedicated to that purpose. Written comments on the environmental impact report are due no later than April 9th. So because of concerns about the spread of the coronavirus, the last scheduled workshop on March 18th has been canceled due to the county-wide school closure. However, this presentation is being streamed on MVTV3 as well as online at www.moval.org/G, live. In addition, from this link, you can also view all of the materials of the workshop and make your comments online. And you will be able to do that if you'd rather after this meeting. Within the next week or so, you can still make your comments online. For those in attendance at the workshop today, we did want to bring a few safety measures or mention a few things. We have some flyers from the CDC with regard to the coronavirus here for your information if you're interested in taking some of those. We also have hand sanitizer at most of the stations throughout the room, so we encourage you to use those. And we also have some wipes over at the table with the snacks there. Staff will not be shaking hands with you at this meeting. That's been a directive of the city manager. And to the extent possible, we'll try to keep a 6-foot distance as recommended by the CDC. So your safety at this workshop is the city's highest priority. Thank you very much for attending. Unfortunately, it doesn't appear that the mayor will be able to be here for this workshop. I know he was planning on being here. So with that, I'm going to introduce Andrew Hill, who's the principal of Diet and Bhatia, the firm that is basically in charge of preparing the general plan. He's the principal of the firm. So, Andrew.
Thank you, Chris, and welcome everyone. So happy you could make it out. As Chris said, I'm Andrew Hill with Diet and Bhatia. We're the planning and design firm that's helping the city with the general plan update. So we're really excited to have you all here and hear what you think about the future of the city. There we go. Before we get over, we start with your input. I wanted to make a quick presentation to orient you all to the project and to the process. And help set up for the interactive activity that we have planned today. For those of you who are watching at home, on the bottom right-hand side of the screen, there's a live link that you can click, and you can view all the same information that's available here on boards and things for the people who've come in person. But first off, what is MoVal 2040? Well, it's an important citywide project that involves updates to Moreno Valley's key long-range planning documents. So it involves an update to the general plan, an update to the housing element, preparation of a climate action plan, and preparation of an environmental impact report. The general plan is the city's blueprint for conservation and development. It lays out a 20-year framework for how and where the city should grow, and it includes goals and policies that touch on just about every aspect of daily life. Everything from jobs and housing to transportation, the environment, parks, public safety, even community health. The general plan guides decision makers in the city making decisions as projects come forward, but also about public investments. And it also sets parameters for development projects as well. The current general plan contains 7 required elements or chapters required by the state. Things like housing, conservation and open space, circulation, safety, land use, parks. And it also has an optional element on community design because that's a topic that's important to the community. The general plan, though, was last comprehensively updated in 2006, and so over the last 13 or so years, the world has changed quite a lot. Now, baby boomers are senior citizens. As a society, we're getting older and more culturally diverse. And on the economic front, things are changing too with the rise of internet shopping. The face of retail is changing. Sticks and bricks stores are closing as people buy more and more of their daily goods online. But our workplaces are changing as well. More people are working from home, or more people are working in the gig economy. There's technological changes that are here as well. In Arizona, there's driverless cars on the street already, and they're coming to California. And we have Uber and Lyft on the streets that are changing the way we get around town. Additionally, there's new technologies that are not here yet but coming soon that can make our roads safer and our infrastructure more efficient. And then we're seeing the effects of climate change already in terms of wildfire that's more frequent and more intense, and rising temperatures, particularly hotter temperatures, average daily temperatures in the summer, and the loss of biodiversity. So these are all issues that we need to deal with as we look forward towards the future. And then, of course, in Moreno Valley, too, the city is located in a growing region. And since 2010, Moreno Valley has added over 15,000 new residents and is now a majority Hispanic community. So in the face of all these changes and emerging trends, now is a really good time to be updating the general plan. To make sure that it's an opportunity also to come together around a shared vision for the future that takes advantage of the opportunities that growth presents and also reflects the cultural diversity of the community. There's a number of new laws at the state level that have come online that need to be addressed. And so in the updated general plan, we'll be including 3 new elements. There'll be an element on economic development, there'll be an element on community health, and there'll be an element on environmental justice. In Moreno Valley, there's areas of the city that have concentrations of lower income households that are disproportionately affected by air and water pollution, and those are issues that need to be addressed in the general plan. A second part of the project is, as I said, the housing element update. Now, the housing element is technically part of the general plan, although by state law, it's updated on a quicker time frame, once every 8 years. And the housing element lays out a plan for accommodating Moreno Valley's share of the regional housing need, including housing at all income levels. So for the current planning cycle, which is 2021 to 2029, Moreno Valley needs to accommodate about 13,500 new housing units. So one of the activities we're asking for input on today, whether here in person or online, has to do with getting your input on where in the city that housing could be accommodated. The third part of the project is the preparation of a climate action plan. The state has set some aggressive targets for reducing greenhouse gas emissions. 40% reduction over 1990 levels by 2030 and carbon neutrality by 2045. And so to address those targets, the city will be preparing a climate action plan. That plan will have 3 main components. It'll start with an inventory of current GHG emissions. It'll have a forecast of future emissions as well as targets. And then it'll have mitigation measures to ensure that those targets are met. And the fourth component is an environmental impact report that'll look at the potential impacts of implementing these 3 plans, and it'll identify mitigation measures that can reduce or avoid those impacts. The whole project will take about 18 months to complete, and the plans are scheduled for adoption in May of 2021. And the project will be done primarily in 4 phases. The first phase, and we're coming to the end of that now, is about understanding issues and opportunities and developing a vision. As part of that, we prepared a series of existing conditions reports, which they might be up on the website now or they will be up soon. So you can have a look at those. And we also did outreach around the community to start to come together around key elements of a shared vision. So between December and February, we did pop-up outreach at different locations around town, and we had a community-wide survey with about 600 responses. And on the basis of that, some key components of a vision have emerged. Those were presented to City Council in February, and now we're moving into phase 2, which is about exploring different options and alternatives that can help achieve that vision. So throughout phase 2, we'll be developing alternatives for land use and circulation, and weighing the pros and cons of those alternatives with community input to decide which are the best features to combine in a preferred plan. That at the end of phase 2, that preferred plan goes to council for consideration, and then we move into phase 3, which is rolling up our sleeves and writing the detailed goals and policies for the plans, and completing the environmental impact report at that stage. The final phase is when the draft plans and the draft EIR are on the street for public review, and we head into hearings for adoption. So let me tell you now a little bit about the key themes that have emerged from the conversation with the community so far. These 4 key themes that are part of the vision. The first of them has to do with a dynamic economy. We really heard strongly from people that they wanted to see a strong, stable, and diverse economy here in Moreno Valley. That means having a range of successful businesses in different industry sectors that can provide good jobs for people in the city so that people don't have to commute long distances to work. And so the key to making that happen is really going to be having a flexible land use framework that can accommodate jobs over time, while also improving the quality of life. In order to get there, it's going to mean partnerships with educational institutions and employers on training and education that can make sure that Moreno Valley youth and everyone can be qualified for the new jobs that will be created here. It's also going to mean having the infrastructure in place that can support that growth, and perhaps exploring new options like tourism and visitor-oriented businesses. The second key theme that's come out of the conversation with the community so far is around vibrant gathering places. There was a really strong support for creating a town center on the model of Victoria Gardens in Rancho Cucamonga, a place where Moreno Valley residents and visitors to the community can come together to shop, to dine, to do business, and to have fun. Additionally, involved with this theme is the idea of really making attractive and inviting gateways into Moreno Valley from the freeways and along major roadways, but also at the neighborhood level, making sure that there's opportunities for people to come together, for sports, for recreation, at cultural facilities. And another big part of what we heard from the community about this is that in all of these public gathering places, they wanted to make sure that the programming and the design reflects the cultural diversity of the community. The third theme that we've heard in the outreach so far has to do with livable neighborhoods. And this means making sure that there's a range of housing opportunities and options for people at all ages and all stages of life. So that means housing for young people, housing for young families starting out, but also housing for seniors so they can age in place and continue to live in the community where they spent their lives. And then another big thing was about making sure that those housing options are suited for the way we're going to be living life in 2040. So as I mentioned, more people are working from home, but there's also more people are interested maybe in owning a single family home, but they don't want to have the big lawn that they need to take care of. So we need to be thinking about in the future about having housing options that are suited for how we're going to be living our lives. Another part of the livable neighborhoods theme really has to do with making safety a priority, safety on our roads, safety near schools, and safety in public places. Making sure that people have access to fresh food and clean air, and making community health a priority as well. And additionally, making sure that it's easy to get around town and that our roads are well maintained. And all of these things feed into community identity, which was really the fourth theme that came out of the conversation with the community. It's about people really wanted Moreno Valley to be a source of local pride. They wanted it to be a model community where people choose to live, to work, and to play. and opportunities for neighbors to build bonds, interacting on a daily basis, whether it's through opportunities to play sports, whether it's community gardens or cultural activities, and promoting a sort of a culture of volunteerism where people can get involved in their community, put down roots, and feel pride, feel a sense of local pride. So as I say, building on this vision, what we'd like to get from you today or online over the next week or so is input that can help inform the development of different land use and circulation alternatives that can move this vision forward. And so we've got around the room boards set up on different topics, on dynamic economy, on land use, gathering places, getting around, neighborhood livability. And then we also have, as Chris mentioned, because today is serving as the scoping meeting for the EIR as well, we have a station where you can tell us about the environmental issues that should be considered in preparing the EIR, as well as some potential solutions that could address them. So all of these boards and the comment cards are also available online at moval.org/GPU Live. The link is there in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. But so if you're here in person or if you're online, you can access the boards at each station. There are boards that have information about trends and the local context. You can read and learn about the situation now. And then there's comment cards or an interactive activity that lets you share your ideas about each of these topics. You can circulate in any order. There'll be a staff member at each station who can answer questions or help you out. And you can leave your input there. For those of you participating online, you can complete as many, or if there's only one topic that's interesting to you, you can just focus on that either way. And so the participation online will be open for about a week or so, and we are very excited about what you have to say about Moreno Valley in 2040. So with that, maybe I'll pause there, and we can see if there's any questions. Otherwise, we can circulate and start the activity. Yes? Yeah.
So you mentioned a lot of things that affect cost of construction.
Maybe I'll give you the microphone so we can.
I don't want to touch it. Well, no, just so we can hear you. I could talk loudly. How's that? So you've mentioned a lot of things that cost a lot to construct. EIR, there's no cost associated with that unless you guys, it doesn't matter what you do. Traffic costs, dump fees, city fees, EMWD cost, state solar requirements. So the fees for the city are like $75,000 a square foot to build a residential house, plus the construction costs. How can you come up with something that makes it affordable for someone to build a house that can be affordable for people to live in?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think it's helpful to know that the city doesn't build the housing.
I understand that, but the cost that you
Sure. But just to make it clear for people who are listening as well, the city doesn't build the housing, but what the city can do is through the levers that are available to the city, which is primarily land use regulations, make sure that the land use regulations are calling for a housing type that that there's market demand for. And so as part of the consultant team, we have a economic development specialist who's prepared a market study, and their input will help inform the decisions that we make along the way.
So then there's one more thing. So I understand that if we want to downzone a residential property from, let's say, 5 to industrial, 5 units per acre to industrial, you can't do that. You can only upzone. What will be the requirements for upzoning property from, say, 5 to 10 or 15 or 30 units per acre?
Yeah, I'm not sure why you couldn't downzone. You can change the zoning so long as you're meeting your allotment of the regional housing need.
You have to replace it somewhere else.
Yes, that is true. Yeah. It could mean, yeah, so you're asking, and I think I would turn that question back on you, because as I say, one of the activities that we want to get input tonight on is what locations around the city make sense for housing, because there are 13,500 new housing units that need to be accommodated over the next 10 years, and maybe there are some locations where a higher density makes sense, but that's something we would like to hear from you all. So I see 3 hands. Maybe I'll start there.
Can you explain why you're starting the environmental EIR right now, because there's no project yet or plan in place, how can you analyze the environmental impacts?
Well, we're not analyzing the environmental impacts yet. What this is, the NOP was released last week, which starts a 30-day scoping period where we want to hear from the public about the range of issues that should be considered in the EIR, as well as solutions that might address them. And so you're right, it is early days, but we think it's good practice to start with the environmental and hear early on about what the potential environmental impacts are, so that the plan in the policies can address those impacts and reduce the need for mitigations later. Be responsive to the potential environmental issues from the get-go.
Yeah, can you or somebody from staff explain why we need 13,000 more homes in the town, and how that varies from what the current land use would get us?
So 13,500 is the city's share of the regional housing need. It's determined by SCAG. SCAG does that exercise for all jurisdictions in the Southern California region, and that's the number that's been assigned to Moreno Valley. There is capacity to produce that number of units. The question is, where does it go?
Is that capacity, are we able to meet the capacity with the land use designations we currently have in place around the community?
That, I don't know the answer to that question. I would think that the answer is yes, but I haven't actually done that analysis to figure it out. Yes. Oh, I think he's got a microphone for you.
Good afternoon. My name is Stephanie. I live in Moreno Valley for many years, and I'm concerned about education. I'm former math teacher. And question for today, somebody was on the expo for STEM here in Moreno Valley last month. That was some school, Belago. I missed already this expo. The speaker, Mr. Irvine, told me millions jobs exist in United States, but force nobody take out. Education is now ready for our dreaming. We have so many projects for expo, many things, but who will take the force of this job? I'm fighting for years for build technical school for our kids.
Is there a question? Do you have a question?
Questions, but education, how we close to education to take the first time be very serious and build technical school, automotive school, technical school, mechanical school, chemical school, builders or something. The kids will be not lost and quit high school. They mentioned, we have no future. We don't know where we're going. We have no money for go to college. We don't go to, Please give me a second. Already. Yes. They already mentioned. This time even Bloomberg promised us to give millions of dollars.
I'm actually going to stop you.
No. Where is this money? Where does money go?
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, so there are opportunities. There are opportunities to provide exactly that kind of input. It seems like, yes, thank you. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Maybe one?
Of the homes that they say we're supposed to be building, is that a mandatory thing, or is that just something that is a suggestion?
That's a good question. So the city doesn't build the housing. The city's responsibility is to make sufficient land available for private development to build at least 13,500 units.
I understand that. The
Okay.
question is, are we required as builders or a city to hit that mark? In other words, can we say, we don't want to put that many houses in here, it'll be too crowded?
No. The city must make that sufficient land available, and then whether the development actually happens in line with those projections from the private side, the state is monitoring that, and if the state feels that if the state looks back over 2 housing element cycles in the past and seems that certain sites haven't developed in line with the densities that are assigned to them, then the state will try and fast track housing development at a higher density rate.
How would that be fair to people that own large properties, pieces of property. They don't want the neighbors, but yet the state's gonna come in and say, we're gonna take your property and make you build houses?
No,
That's what it sounds like it's going to.
no, that would only apply to vacant lands
Well, what's considered vacant?
with nothing on it.
Okay, but what if you want it that way?
Well, then you buy it.
Right,
Then no problem. Problem solved.
okay, but if the state comes in and says, this property has to be changed to this housing, and you bought the property, you don't wanna build it, are they eventually going
No,
to
this-
force you out of it?
So you're saying you own a vacant parcel and you want to keep it vacant?
Yeah, or anybody else that owns a large parcel, they wanna keep it vacant or non-built on. They may be using it for grazing, they may be using it for just viewing. Vacant, to me, is a wrong word to use. It's an unused piece of property or undeveloped piece of property, but not vacant.
Yeah. No, the state doesn't say that every vacant parcel has to be built. The state simply
Are they
says
gonna force this many houses to be built?
no, they're not. They don't have those levers available. All they will, again, like the city, the levers available to them are the regulatory levers. And if they think that over 10, 15 years, a property hasn't developed and they think it's because the density is being kept intentionally low, then they would do things to allow for higher density development to happen on those properties. But overall, the 13,500 units have to be accommodated somewhere throughout the city. And there's a lot of land available. There are some places where higher density development in the city may make sense, and there are some places where it doesn't. And that's the kind of thing we'd like to hear from you all. Whether here in person tonight at station number 2, we have some activities around that, or online, you can look at station number 2, which is about land use. So I see one more hand, and maybe we can break up after that.
Yeah, at the risk of upsetting a few in here, our former mayor Tom Owings said when he was mayor that when you're looking at these developments, general plans and stuff, you should look at it as zoning your property its highest, best, and most valuable use. I would hope, since we've really had a, like I call a patchwork, a development of our general plans and stuff and development policies since we've been a city in 1984, that this time we would really look, and I hope this would be the focus of your study, and I'd like you to put together one map that shows what is the highest, best, and most valuable use for each piece of property and development in this city. Because if you want maximum value, if you want the highest income and opportunity in your community, you will look at it in that light. And that would be my request from your company, is at least put one option in front of the council that they vote, which is the highest, best, and most valuable use of the property we have in the general plan coming up.
Thanks for the comment. Okay. All right, two last questions, but I do want to make time to circulate. So, go ahead.
When you posted your listings before, I kind of understand it, but I don't think most of the people understand what you mean by flexible zoning. I really want to make sure that that's out there for people to know what that can mean to the parcel right next door to them that's undeveloped. And they think it's going to be one thing, but with flexible zoning, you could switch it on them without much cause.
Well, the land use designations will describe a range of uses, and the land use designations will be developed with community input. And so it is possible that there may be a mixed-use designation that applies in one of a more urban area that allows residential and commercial and other things. But more likely, the land use designations will have a type, and then within that, a range of things. But absolutely, the land use designations are going to be developed with community input throughout the process and vetted throughout the process. So lots of opportunity to provide input on how they're created and help refine as well. Yep, just one more gentleman over here.
So you said something about alternative plans?
Yes.
Do you have any suggestions available, or how's that gonna be for us to comment on things?
Well, first of all, that's why we're here today, and why we're asking people to participate online, is to get input about questions like where should the housing go, where should the jobs go, that kind of question, and we'll take on board that feedback and develop different scenarios for land use and circulation. And then in May, those are going to be available online for a citywide survey for people to provide input on. At that time, we'll be presenting not only the alternatives, but some measure of the pros and cons for people to weigh in on as well. And we're taking on board that feedback throughout phase 2. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yep.
Again, questions. This strategic planning is our original from Moreno Valley or came from somebody else, from something else?
No,
This
it's
original. Original came from us, from Moreno Valley.
yes. That's why we want to get to the activities so we can
Because
start to get your
I
input. And
participate with many strategic against school, and everything go in fiasco, and even people lost the money already. Questions, but a project for building houses, we like to have new houses, but in tornado destroyed for second in central United States. Do we have the new project to build different way houses?
that's a good suggestion.
Something this in Europe is already made the houses underground and use shining for periscope they're using already. That means we need new designer already because our houses will go with second with the wind.
Yeah, those are good suggestions. Thank you. So I think what I'm going to ask everyone to do now is let's break up. Please feel free to circulate to the stations, get some information, provide some input, ask your questions. There'll be staff members over there. And again, for anyone who's at home online, these informations are all available at this link. Thank you very much.